This is starting to take shape all across the country right now. This is a preview of things to come.
Yeah.
And this is happening in Alabama. This is happening in Dallas. This is happening in New York. It's not just happening in big blue cities or big blue states, but it is happening at a new scale of cruelty here in California.
Welcome back to another episode of Don't Worry, I'll Ask. Today is special. We have Gavin Newsom. And right now, given where we're at in LA and America, there is no bigger conversation than the conversation about what's happening with ICE and the raids and everything around it. Behind me, if you're watching, is LA. And we're in the heart of it. We're a mile and a half from the detention center. And doing the interview right here in the city matters a ton. There's only a couple people in the world that can speak fluently about this. Real live experience and phone conversations and everything in between. That's Donald Trump, our president, and that's Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and Karen Bass, obviously the mayor of LA. Luckily, we get one of those on the show today. Governor Newsom gets a lot of flack. A lot of people hate on him. The Trump administration pretty much has built a whole campaign around who he is, calling him new scum, making fun of him, making fun of the state of California. And I want to talk about all those things in the context of what's happening with the ICE raids. I also just want to take a second to just give gratitude. I mean, look, this is the 4th episode we're launching. I mean, I'm just, a former NFL player trying to have a voice and all these things that are happening. And in our 4th episode, thanks to the community and everything that we're building, we have on Gavin Newsom. Lastly, the thing that I like about this interview the most is passion. Right? We bring guests on and the goal is to get them to speak passionately about whatever it is. We're asking difficult questions and they could give basic answers that just check boxes and get them to the next thing that they have on their schedule. Newsom comes in here and it's so obvious that he is very passionate about this. He's scared for America. He's scared about what the Trump administration is doing right now, quite frankly. So he talks about all that and we're asking all the tough questions. Look, the best part of everything that we do is I'm here and I'm gonna ask the questions that you want to. Because I'm Isaac Rochelle and this is Don't Worry, I'll Ask. Enjoy the show. It probably drives you nuts how critical people are of California. I mean, I posted about interviewing you and like half the responses were like, ask Governor Newsom why California is such a mess.
Look, I would submit there is at times a Trump derangement syndrome. I don't deny that. I see it. And there's equally a California derangement syndrome and deep obsession with California. It's just this constant and never-ending sort of declinist attitude towards the state that continues to punch above its weight. So we generate so much innovation and entrepreneurialism. We're on the leading and cutting edge in almost every major category. Housing is the number one problem in the state and has been for decades, and we have to do more, and we are. And homelessness is a byproduct of that. And those two things remain stubbornly legitimate points of critique for people on the left, not just the right.
Well, you just you're describing all these great things about California, and then, because we have to talk about what's going on now with the ICE raids and whatnot, then you have a president who totally goes above your authority, makes decisions to send people in. You've talked about it a million times. How much does that break your heart to see that happening and frustrate you because of the productivity that the state has had for so long?
Well, I don't know how any heart can't be broken when 4-year-old girls are going missing, when kids are quite literally being left at school because their parents have disappeared, where people aren't showing up at their own graduations. I just watched a video of someone with 2 kids, 6 and 2 years old, in the back of his car, and the car was rammed by ICE. He's part of the Carpenters Union here in the state of California. You have people literally running down the streets being chased by ICE agents at car washes, Home Depots, down there in Ventura today, big ag workplace assaults. 9-month woman pregnant, arrested, 9-month, pregnant. When I say people disappearing, no due process. They disappear to a federal facility. They may end up a day later, maybe hours later, in Louisiana, Texas. Their family don't know where they is. That's Trump's America right now. And he's playing it out not just in the streets of California. This is starting to take shape all across the country right now. This is a preview of things to come. If we talk about California as America's coming attraction, future happens here first in every way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
This is the future of community nearby. This is happening in Alabama. This is happening in Dallas. This is happening in New York. It's not just happening in big blue cities or big blue states, but it is happening at a new scale of cruelty here in California, playing into these authoritarian tendencies of an administration that's looking for a fight, that's looking to attack the rule of law, and is challenging state sovereignty, states' rights, and is challenging a foundational construct that the military should not be used for domestic law enforcement. And currently the military is being used for domestic law enforcement in the United States of America against American citizens, not just against those without documentation.
Our own military used against us is a wild concept. And just on what you're saying, I look at the year over year of President Obama's time, and how many folks he deported. In comparison to Trump, he deported more.
Yeah.
So why do you feel like this feels like such an attack?
This is the way he did it. I mean, and by the way, there were a lot of critiques about Obama, quote unquote, the deporter in chief. No one's, so people just level set. There's no governor in the United States of America that can claim what I'm about to state. And it's not even a claim, it's just a fact. I've coordinated and collaborated with ICE. I've gotten a lot of grief, a lot of shit from the left and my legislature that I've vetoed legislation that would deny me the ability to coordinate with ICE, which I've done over 10,500 times, to go after criminals. I don't have it. We need to embrace that. I reject the notion that we shouldn't. There are Democrats out there that don't believe that's the right thing to do, including members of my legislature, and I think they're wrong. So I have no problem with that. I also agree in border security. I'm the guy who sent National Guard to the border to support CBP, to help with border patrol and policy, including fentanyl interdiction and counter narcotics. And so for me, that's not what this is about. There's a component part of that, but what this is about is creating fear and terrorizing diverse communities. You don't stage at a Home Depot unless you're looking to terrorize people. You don't ram a car with 2 young children, toddlers, in the middle of the day and put people's lives at risk unless you are trying to sow chaos so that you can provide a framework where then you can seize more power and control. And so this is a dangerous damn moment in history. And again, this is a guy who believes in comprehensive immigration reform, believes in a strong border, and has policies that back that up. And even in a sanctuary state, we coordinate and collaborate with ICE. And again, we have the receipts on that.
You're talking a lot about the violence of ICE and how like law and order, right, this feels. Let's talk about the other side, because a lot of comments that I had were just about the violence of people rioting and whatnot, and you spoke very clearly on it.
It's disgraceful.
What is the message to people who are distracted by that?
Well, look, Reverend Lawson, one of my heroes, he's the guy who taught Dr. King all the fundamental frameworks and tenets of nonviolent protests from Gandhi. He was a California and LA and Angelino, early LA resident, passed away a year or so ago. And I remember during the riots after George Floyd, where people were smashing windows, and I remember in a community meeting him lecturing some young folks that were saying that's okay. He says, that's not the way we did our movement.
Yeah.
You guys have no idea what you're doing. I mean, he was literally lecturing these young kids, and to have the moral authority coming from Lawson. And I gotta say, the hell are these people doing? Smashing Waymos, breaking in, looting, graffiti everywhere. They need to be held to account, period, full stop. And
we pay for that. You know, California taxpayers pay for that.
But we're going to pay for that. It's even in a deeper way. We're going to pay for that with our democracy. We're going to lose our democracy. Those are the images Donald Trump wants. Those are the images he's exploiting. And by the way, these are not the real protest. These are the professional anarchists. These are the guys that are out there, the agitators. These are the guys that are starting to infiltrate these things, and they need to be called out. And by the way, we had 227 arrests last night, but what we're doing, we're sweeping. Those that think they got away with this stuff, they're going through all the videos, and we got tons of videos. got a prosecution unit that the DA has created to prosecute these cases, and they're going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. You've got to call that out as you celebrate the fundamental rights afforded to you under the Constitution of the United States to peacefully protest.
Speaking of peacefully protest, we have to talk about Donald Trump, President Trump's most recent comments about, hey, birthday parade, if you're protesting, it wasn't if you're rioting, if you're hurting people, there's going to be force taken. What does that say to our country, and how dangerous is that mentality?
Well, I mean, he's people that have military parades, Kim Jong-un, Putin. I mean, this is stuff of dictators. What an embarrassment. What a vulgar display of weakness masquerading as strength. To celebrate the dear leader, this is a disgrace. Using American resources and the American military, these heroes. Our National Guard are heroes. They're the ones, I deployed 3,000 to protect us in the midst of the fires and to protect perimeters after the fires. Been a gift of my life to have the ability to mobilize up to 18,000 of these remarkable people, by the way, that are police officers that are no longer working the beat, that were working the border under other assignments and working to do vegetation and forest management to keep, to prepare for fire season. They've all been pulled off for the vanity of Donald Trump. But those that are being pulled onto assignment to be used as pawns for his birthday celebration, it says everything, symbolically and substantively of where we are in the United States of America. This is not what the founding fathers lived and died for. 3 co-equal branches of government, the best of Greek democracy and the Roman Republic. We have no oversight from Congress now. Speaker Johnson, who quote unquote said I should be tarred and feathered. A couple of days ago, the President of the United States, who asserted that I should be arrested they asked him for what's the grounds? Well, for being elected. Going after his political opponents, threatening to literally jail them, having a military parade on one's birthday, militarizing the streets of America, threatening to impeach judges that he disagrees with, rewriting history, censoring historical facts. They removed Toni Morrison, James Baldwin from the curriculum and books at West Point because they think these remarkably young, talented men and women don't have character. They're too weak to somehow read those works from those great authors. That's the United States of America 141 days into this administration.
I'm curious, so the events with ICE started to unfold, and then again, President Trump went above your authority, called in the National Guard. Was there any conversation before that?
Yeah, we had a conversation Friday night. And he didn't even talk about this.
Really?
I was going back and forth with his chief of staff, Susie Wiles. We were text messaging back and forth. I was talking to Mayor Bass, and in that missed a call with Trump and then got right back to him. Called him late that night and immediately started talking about the unrest, and we were going to get into the details of how mutual aid was sent out with the California Highway Patrol, how local law enforcement was actually there. No discussion about the National Guard. He lied about that. Stone cold liar. Lied about that conversation where he said that he told me he was putting the National Guard. Nothing. He started, I won't get into the details of the conversation except to say 6 hours later, he then goes back and reverts to his original 8th grade form, which is calling me new scum and saying that he is doing something no other president's done since the 60s, and that is commandeering the National Guard, taking them out of duty as local law enforcement agents. Again, these guys have day jobs, off the border and off doing the forest and vegetation management, and then announces in a press release that he's calmed everything down before they were actually even deployed. Lied about that as well. Inciting the fear and anxiety that we told him would ensue. All law enforcement said, this is a dangerous thing, because what happened when the National Guard, and it was only 315 of the 2,000, 100 or so staged in rotation, 50 plus at a time, 12-hour shifts, in front of the federal building, just down the block from where we are.
Mile and a half, we're right here.
Right here. It became a destination for the protesters.
Yeah.
So much so, true story, this is literally a fact, that our own local law enforcement had to protect the National Guard. Literally to protect them. All the arrests, none of them are the National Guard. These are good kids. They're like, what the hell are we doing here?
Right.
And he could only assign 300 of the 2,000 because he couldn't find anything else to do, because this was concentrated in just a few square blocks. But they got the images they want. They created the anxiety, they sowed fear, and they created the conditions where they can then get tougher and show that they are the only ones that are standing up for law enforcement.
Wow.
And then you had those idiots on those Waymos that made it worse, gave them the perfect image, and then the opportunity to call in the military, active duty military in this case, 700 Marines.
You mentioned that this hasn't happened since the 60s. 1965 is the last time it happened. For those who don't know, we all should know, 1965 was a very controversial time in American history. Civil rights is happening, the Voter Rights Act, all these things that are really important. Now that's happening again.
Yeah.
My question is, where are we at, right? Like, how close are we to a situation like we saw 60 years ago with just the growing tension of the country?
Well, he's trying to put America in reverse. Donald Trump wants to bring us back to a pre-1960s world. Civil rights, voting rights, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, not just access to abortion, even contraceptive care. I said he's rewriting history, censoring historical facts. That's a fact. Data sets are quite literally disappearing. It's a war on knowledge. Why else do you go after universities? War on science. National Science Foundation, NIH grants, DOD grants. He's literally eliminating all of these. Literally did so at Harvard and some other universities, threatening to do so here in California at our UCs and CSUs. What world are we living in? He is trying to gin up the kind of friction, fear, anxiety that either does one of two things. There's only two paths. Complete submission, where we retreat, and it's the rule no longer of law, it's the rule of dawn. He's already taken out one branch of government, no oversight, period. No advise and consent in Congress. Again, Speaker Johnson's neutered, useless. I mean, this is extraordinary. He's run roughshod with DOJ and the law. He's threatening, because judges have actually asserted some legal authority and moral authority, Trump-appointed judges, not just Democratic judges, to impeach those judges. And what he's trying to do is threaten his opponents and beat down into submission governors in states like California. And the only thing standing in the way are the people. Justice Brandeis, I gave a speech last night where I said the most important office in a democracy is not office of president. Sure as hell ain't office of governor. It's office of citizen. But it's active, not inert citizenship. And so people need to be activated, not just agitated. And we say it all the time when we go to church. It's, as you pray, move your feet. It's faith and works in the spirit of King, the spirit of the great Bobby Kennedy, in the spirit of the 60s, the vernacular of the 60s. And I think it's a moment, and that's the pathway, peaceful pathway, not these idiots, with their masks on and shooting grenade, all this nonsense. But good people standing up and pushing back, and I pray that's the path, that we do not fall prey to cynicism and submission. We'll lose this democracy. I hate when people say that. I remember people rolling their eyes. We were saying that in the campaign. People saying these guys are just bloviating and just, what more evidence do you need, man? He got rid of all the watchdogs that oversee government waste, fraud, and criminal and corrupt abuse. Eliminated all of them. He's literally weaponized the Department of Justice to go after anyone. He threatened to arrest a city governor. I mean, this is not normal. Don't allow it to be normalized. And forgive me for being intense about this.
No, I love it.
This is a deep moment, man. And this is a guy, by the way, I go out of my way to meet with people I disagree with. I had a good working relationship with Donald Trump. I've got on my podcast, I just had Dr. Phil, who's embedded on these ICE raids on.
Right.
I just had Newt Gingrich, who was one of my principal proponents of me being recalled.
Right.
It wasn't just Charlie Kirk and Bannon. Man, I want to have an open hand, not a closed fist. I'm not that guy. I don't talk down to people or past people, but Donald Trump, His instincts are authoritarian. He doesn't give a damn about anybody. There's not one of you watching that he gives a damn about. He just doesn't. You don't matter. You can't work with this guy. You can only work for him. And I sure as hell, and I hope I speak for many people, will never work for that guy.
Now, people will listen to what you're saying and they'll go, oh, it's Gavin Newsom. Yeah. He's going to say that. He's the face of Democrats, yada, yada, yada. What are your colleagues saying that are Republicans about what's going on?
The stuff they say in private is chilling because they don't have the courage to say it in public. In some ways, it's almost worse. I wish they didn't actually know what was going on.
Right.
Because then I could forgive them. The hell is that? I've talked to foreign leaders all the time. When you govern a state, again, as large as California, I wish I had my cell phone on. God is my witness, I had two of them text me. Not even make that up.
What are they saying?
They're just in shock, horrified, laughing behind this guy's back. But they have to deal with him. They've got to deal with him. Look what's happened to all these CEOs kissing his ring. I mean, because he'll go after them. And so it's, in some ways you get it. In other ways, it's just so, I could choose that path. Mr. President, thank you. Oh, you're sending, oh, good, thank you so much. Yes, thank you, sir. Please. Oh, okay, you're only taking that from him. Thank you so much. Just, what the hell is that? That's what he wants. And I just, so we're taking a different path, and I just pray other people take that path. Damn Republicans, stand up, man. It's not just the never Trumpers. There's some folks that are big Trump supporters. They're like, well, that's just Donald. No, that's not just Donald. That's Donald wrecking the core principles that this republic was founded on.
I think it's fascinating that you're saying Republicans stand up because, as you know, I feel like a lot of Democrats are saying we need more Democrats to be louder. Like, the Republicans have their leader, right? They have Donald Trump. Regardless of what you believe, he is their leader that gives a very clear path. A lot of Democrats are calling for the same thing. What do you say to your Democrat colleagues as far as like a leader really stepping up and guiding Democrats?
I think there's been a lot of them doing good things, and I applaud that. And from every spectrum of the party, and I'm proud of these guys. And they're my friends. But look, I've got a little bone to pick with my party. In the party is at every level. It's not just indictment of the federal. Is that we have been so damn reactive in the last few decades. These guys have shape-shifted everything. I mean, just think about, how they play us, how we're sitting there on the defense on CRT, which is not even taught in grade school, but all of a sudden is the biggest issue in the country. DEI, ESG. It allowed Ron DeSantis to quite literally do a gag rule on what you can say, not only in the classroom, but also in the boardroom. Ron DeSantis, one of the social studies books in the United States of America in the last 2 years was changed to take the race out of the book when teaching about Rosa Parks. Because it was woke to talk about her race.
Yeah.
Which is the foundational principle.
Yeah.
Of the entire reason she's even in the damn book. You can't make this up. There was so much outcry that the social studies company, one of the biggest in the country, decided to change the law, but they were trying to be in compliance with that anti-woke law. My point being this, we've allowed that. We've ceded the ground. We're on the defense all the damn time. We've got to flood the zone. It's about leadership at all levels. And these guys are weaponizing grievance. They got this bullshit machine propaganda network on Newsmax, One American News, Fox, don't even get me started, that are just mouthpieces of mis and dis damn information. And they're just flooding the zone. And we're constantly reacting to this. We've got to get on the offense. And we've got to do it with surround sound, with conviction, and with clarity. And again, there's a lot of great Democrats doing that. But as a party, at every level, we need to reconcile that. They've been winning. That's why Donald Trump is in the position he's in. That's why the House of Representatives is in the hands of the Republicans and the Senate. And that's why things were so set back. So I just, I don't think it's just this moment. I think it's been, frankly, years and years and years where my party has not been as aggressive as it's needed to be.
Right now, you're a huge voice. This is happening in our backyard. You don't have a choice but to be a voice. Yeah. Why should people trust you? Why should people trust Governor Newsom?
Why should they trust it? Because I am who I am. I'm an open book. I've made mistakes. Boy, I've made mistakes. I try to own up to them because I have deep respect for people who disagree with me. That we all want to be loved. We all need to be loved. We all want to be protected, respected, and connected to something bigger than ourselves. And I'm a work in damn progress, man. That I have deep grace and humility, that I'm constantly learning, and I'm constantly trying to absorb not just what people that support me are saying, but people that deeply disagree with me. That's why I'm platforming those folks that disagree with me. That's why I still talk to President Donald Trump, even though he calls me new scum, tries to demean and denounce me, and talks about my arrest. And I hope some total of understanding that about me provides just a monicum of appreciation that, you know, maybe you can trust what I'm saying. Doesn't mean I'm always right. And it doesn't mean that I'm not often trying to correct course.
Right.
And just because you disagree with me doesn't mean I hate you.
Right.
I have deep respect for you and the fact that you love your family and you love your community. And so there's a lot of hate.
Absolutely.
And it breaks my heart because, like, man, divorce is not an option.
Yeah.
You know, we got to live in advance together across our differences, and it's stressful, man. I mean, I feel it. People, the way they're talking in the corner, you're like, damn, like that's just, you can't live like this in the state of anxiety and fear, and so that's why I'm just trying to be present at this moment to push back, because that's all this is about. That's the Trump agenda right now. That's what he's distilling, not a sense of well-being, fear and anxiety, and he's weaponizing that for his own power. And I just think that is wrong. It is un-American. That is not a Democrat saying that. That's a guy with 4 kids that honestly gives a damn. I don't care if they're Republicans when they grow up or Democrats. 4 kids. And I want them to have opportunities and privileges that, frankly, I started to take for granted. And I'm now realizing what's at stake if we don't push back at this moment.
For whatever it's worth, that is an unbelievable answer. And I think you're spot on. I mean, as a former NFL player, just the sentiment of just get better every day, right? I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. That's not what we're not striving for perfection, striving to get better. So thank you so much for getting on. I think everybody here appreciates it.
Thank you, man.
I'm hoping that this is really impactful. But again, it's just really important to have these types of conversations. So it means a lot.
I'm honored and appreciate you, and I'm grateful for this opportunity. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.